Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for our Personal Growth Hour. Personal growth is about examining our lives, looking at our self-confidence and our motivation, learning how to listen to others and take from what has happened in their lives and the stories they tell, and how we can use those experiences to possibly improve our lives. I have a special guest with us today. Her name is Mayra Castrejon-Hernandez. Welcome, Mayra.
Hi, hello, good morning. Yes, I'm here and very honored to be here.
Oh, we're honored to have you today, Mayra. Mayra, you are the president of Deaf Women of Color.
Yes, that's correct.
I want to ask you some questions about your leadership and some of the activities that you do in the community. First of all, can you explain more about yourself, Mayra?
Sure, I'd be happy to. This is how I sign my name in sign language, Mayra. I was born in Guadalajara, Mexico, not far from Puerto Rico. Not Puerto Rico, I mean Puerto Vallarta. It's about an hour away. We lived about an hour from town, but I do consider myself to be Mexican. That is how I identify myself in America. I'm also considered a Latina. Often, when people ask me where I'm from, I just simply say I'm from Guadalajara, but I consider myself a Mexican. I moved here when I was 5 years old. The reason that we moved here was for us to have a better education because I also have a deaf sister. Let me explain a little bit more about my family. I'm the youngest in the family. I have an older sister who is deaf and two older hearing brothers.
So, when you were growing up, you grew up in Mexico and then you moved to America. That seems like that would have been a huge challenge for you and your family to make a long distance move like that. There could be a lot of change in your learning about a new culture and community. Can you talk a little bit about those changes?
Yes, again, just so you know, I was born with no hearing loss. I was born hearing. I did not become deaf until I was 5 years old. That's when my parents decided that Mexico wasn't the place for to be because they have no support system for those who are deaf. None. Actually, deaf people are not thought of as highly as people who can hear because of their hearing loss. They think deaf people can't be successful and sometimes call us clowns. That's another reason that my parents wanted to move here, but it was a huge change. I had to learn English language and American Sign Language. I wasn't confident in my signing. It's not something I had done before. I also went to a mainstream school where I first came here. Then I went to Milwaukee Sign Language School. I saw the kids there and they were using different languages. There were people of different backgrounds, people who were Hispanic, Asian, white, and African American. That really taught me. My parents would teach me what to do, and I started to pick things up from others in America. Nobody ever really explained things for me. I would go somewhere and I would pick up language, I would gesture. I was learning to speak English a little bit. I am hard of hearing in one of my ears, so I would depend on what I could hear. I didn't understand everything 100%, but I learned enough to get by.
Wow. Many parents, from my understanding, are willing to relocate because of what their child can access. They want their child to have a better education and they look at it as an investment in their child and their child's education. It seems your parents had that same thought for you and your sister.
I completely agree.
So, the word diversity has come up frequently. We're still learning about other cultures and other nationalities. We're learning about people's ethnicities, and I think it's a huge benefit to meet people of all different ethnicities. just as you were saying, Mayra, as you were growing up, you thought you who thought you would become the president of Deaf Women of Color, right? Nobody thought that when you were younger. Oh, sorry, I'm having a hard time signing that. But to think about that group and that organization, can you tell us a little bit about more about that organization and how your experiences of engaging with people of diverse backgrounds has helped you run such an organization?
Certainly. The Deaf Women of Color's logo looks like DNA. It has a backstory to it. It's because we talk about what's really inside us. Where do we come from? I come from Mexico, but the other members of the team come from other countries. We are deaf women of color, but we can all come together. Women specifically, we can empower people to embrace their culture no matter what it is. We can educate each other. We don't have to help each other only, but we can also help ourselves and uplift each other.
It's good to value each other's cultures and to help women feel empowered, especially those who are among minorities, those who are women or deaf or people of color. I feel like your group brings those three minorities together. So in the organization, how how does that organization really help those in those three groups?
We help women and provide them information about where they can find jobs or services that they may need to help their families or themselves. Women can help a lot of other women as well. Here in the United States, we have people from other countries. For example, somebody from an African country may want to come to our conference. We will help them write a proposal so they can come and learn from the conference. Then they can take what they have learned back to their home countries and teach other women about their possibilities and what they can do.
So your organization isn't just local or national, it's international. You're providing opportunities for women all over the world. It's a wonderful thing to do. Now, organizations, all of them have challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've had to face while running the organization?
Hmm, what are some of the challenges? When the Black Lives Matter movement was occurring, one of the challenges that we faced was vocabulary. For example, the hashtags that were being used. I wasn't making the decisions about the words that were used. I gave that power to those who were involved in that specific group. I wanted to make sure that they were okay with the words. I wanted to make sure that we were being sensitive to their movement. It was very challenging. I wanted to continue to uplift people and encourage people. As a president of an organization, I want to be patient, kind, and understanding of their feelings. It can be a huge risk when making a decision about words that are used. We had the Asian movement at that time going on, and we wanted to make and work with the Asian community and make sure that they felt uplifted and that they were in a good place. I really had to examine the appropriate words and make sure that I was using the words that were culturally appropriate and acceptable in their cultures and ethnicities. I had those groups teach me what was right and appropriate. Once that was in place, we could go on with our meetings and everyone could feel included. My goal was not to make others feel down on themselves. I didn't want anybody to feel down on themselves or to use hurtful words. Often people of these groups already feel oppressed, and I didn't want them to experience secondary or tertiary oppression from me. I want everybody on my team to feel accepted. During Zoom meetings, we talked about how we can keep these meetings light and uplifting. We didn't want to have serious meetings all the time. People are facing those things in their everyday life. I want to try to make the meetings light and refreshing for everybody. You can make a positive impact on people's lives doing that. I know that if you see my team smiling and laughing, then I've done my job for the day. But yes, those were some of the challenges.
As an officer or role model in an organization, you often have to make sure there is transparency. Members need to feel included and that they have a voice, that they are being seen and they are being heard. It really does take a village. It can't be just one person making all the decisions, just like you explained. When we talk about the organizations earlier, the minorities that experience discrimination or oppression, what they might feel, even you mentioned yourself growing up
Yes.
that what you experienced, you want to make sure that the people feel invited and that they feel they're in a safe place
Mhm.
and they can always speak out about how they're feeling.
That's exactly right, Scott.
That's why transparency is such an important word. The members want to know that they're being heard and that the organization is working for them. It also includes so much communication.
Yes, I completely agree that communication is key. I think it's important to find out what's going on every day. You can't just assume everybody is good. You have to actually ask them, "How are you today?" You have to ask it every day.
You want people to feel a connection with your organization and feel that the organization is a benefit for them. You want them to buy in as members. How do you have people join your organization?
That's something we're always working on. There is a large, diverse group, and many of us have experienced discrimination and oppression in our lives. Part of the way that we try to help our group is by educating those in the white Caucasian community or other majority communities about minority communities in the classroom, the workplace. We encourage them to not necessarily be a member of our organization, but join our meetings and see what we're experiencing. Hear our conversations. We don't want people in our organization to feel that they're going to be put down. We want people to feel safe while outside people are joining in on our meetings. We want the environment to feel safe. We don't want anybody to feel targeted.
When you have somebody who's from a majority group sitting in, listening, and learning from your group, I think it's nice for them to be able to get your perspective and learn from your experiences. How do you try to involve them and help them understand, incorporate, or personify what your experiences are? It's such a hard concept for people to be able to personify what other people are feeling. You really want them to feel that they are an ally. I always encourage people to get involved in an organization, but some people have doubts about joining. They think, is it worth it for me to join? Or I really don't know anything about that organization. Do you still try to encourage people to join your organization despite their experience or lack thereof?
Some organizations, but not with ours. I encourage those from the white population to come so they can be educated and learn more about our lives. Again, it's all about respect, and we want everybody to feel safe. We ask our visitors to stop, listen, and watch. Maybe they've come with a friend one day. If they have questions, they can ask that friend after the meeting. Some organizations don't want outsiders in their space, and I can't speak for those groups. If you want to observe a group, though, contact the president or others who run that organization and ask. It's important to communicate and have a conversation, know what their rules are.
Yes, sensitivity and compassion are so important amongst organizations. So I completely understand what you're saying. Now, While running an organization, you can face many barriers. Can you give me an example of a barrier that you faced and how you resolved the problem to break that barrier down?
This month, we were supposed to have an in person conference, but unfortunately, we had to cancel it. We did strategize how we could go ahead and do a Zoom meeting despite not having an in person conference. We wanted to see how it would work. Financially, we wanted everything to be fair. We didn't want it to be expensive. We wanted it to be a weekend. We wanted it to be affordable. We wanted to make sure that everybody could attend if they wished. Some people don't have jobs because of COVID. So affordability was important. We really wanted to have an environment where women of color could feel a connection and feel like, yes, this is the place I want to be.
I know this can be a barrier for many organizations, not just yours. Other organizations experience the same, where they couldn't have a conference in person, so they had to do it through Zoom. Even myself, when I'm setting up a meeting, I often forget that I have to think about equity and make sure that everyone has access to the meeting. Now, some people have cars, others don't. Some people have computers, others don't. There are many barriers that people may face, and we want to make sure that everybody is given the same opportunity. I think Zoom is a great tool because people can sit and watch the meetings and they don't have to drive to attend. Zoom has positive and negative aspects, but being in person is truly a wonderful experience. I think there are benefits to in person and to Zoom. One positive benefit, though, that if you can't attend in person, Zoom still is a viable option. We have to think about safety as well. That's so important for people to make sure that they stay safe and healthy.
I completely agree. Also, money can be saved, and that money can be spent on future years for an in person conference.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost two steps forward and one step back. We feel things are going along just fine, and then something comes up and frustration, we have to figure out how to resolve that issue. Then we can continue moving forward. It's always two steps forward and one step back.
Right, exactly, Scott.
Can you tell us a little more about your conference coming up? Give us the scoop.
Ah, yes. So we have the Deaf Women of Color, which is under the National Deaf People of Color. Men can be involved in that organization. We want men to be involved as well. This conference is coming up in August, this summer. And if you want to know more about it, we will go ahead and show you the QR code. So let's take a look at that.
Yep, it's good for you, anyone to check out this QR code. Um, who can attend this conference?
It's for people who are deaf or deafblind or hard of hearing. We are encouraging people of diverse cultures and ethnicities to attend. Of course, Caucasians can attend to learn more about diverse cultures. The meeting will be on Zoom. You can check it out and see if you're interested in joining.
Well, this is another opportunity for personal growth. A person could attend this conference and learn about different aspects of cultures, diversity, and people of all backgrounds. I highly encourage anyone to attend this conference.
Yes.
So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about leadership. When you look at leadership, what's your perspective, Mayra?
As far as my leadership style, the first thing you have to have is patience. You have people from different cultures, people who are on different timelines, and you have to have patience to understand how people are interpreting things, what the backstory is behind something that they're saying. You may have to ask for clarification, and that's where the patience comes in. Once you get that, then you have to visualize. As a leader, you have to be able to visualize what people are saying. You may have to make a plan for your team, talk about meetings, but also understand, for example, let's say there's somebody on your team who has something going on religiously and they cannot meet right now because they have something going on. Let's say they have a church celebration or something going on that month. You have to be respectful of that. You have to be understanding. You have to understand people's beliefs and strengths. And I believe that a strong leader will be able to look at all of those within their team and be sensitive about it, be able to communicate. Sensitivity is a word you have to be very careful with. Everybody is different. You have to be understanding. Communication is very important. And you have to have a little humor on the side. You can't be all work and no play. You got to have a little fun and a little bit of humor now and then to make the situation lighter. You have to really think about what you're doing and make sure that everybody's involved in the meeting and having a good time. It can be difficult as a leader because you're taking risks. You're the one making the decisions. You never know if those are good decisions or bad decisions, but you want to make sure that you're empowering your team with their ideas. Maybe they have a really big idea, what I call an RBI. But you have to take those really big ideas and make sure that everybody on the team understands them and can visualize them. And then you can all work together on them as a team. You never know what can become successful. I'm just happy to be a leader who can hopefully do all those things.
Yes, and having goals and having communication is so important. And you hit the nail on the head there with patience. It's so important. I think a lot of people forget about that sometimes. And in our leadership roles, sometimes we forget about others' perspectives and their experiences. And we forget that word patience when dealing with others in the work that we do. I think that organizations can only be strong if they have patience with people who are in them.
I agree 100%, Scott.
Yes. It seems like we're getting close. We are getting close to the end of our time together.
Well, that's too bad.
I do want to look at personal growth and how we look at it. And so I want you to share about your journey and your experience with that word, personal growth.
I think there's 3 words that I like, and those are anything is possible. As I mentioned before, I didn't become deaf until I was 5 years old. And I was not growing personally at that time. I didn't have communication. I wasn't really accepted by the deaf community. Once I went to the school for the deaf, I was surrounded by people who were deaf and I slowly was accepted. Then I started to identify myself. And that's when I started to learn that anything is possible. When I graduated, my English wasn't great, I admit it, but I went to college. And when I was in college, I started learning the basics of English and math and reading and what things actually meant. And I learned s- not, yeah, I wasn't the top of my class, but I learned and I was able to grow and understand and really get to know myself. I wanted to take care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally. I wanted to understand all of these things about myself, what was frustrating me to help myself. And I had a pastor from my church who was helping me. I didn't understand why I wasn't accepted and what was going on in my brain. And I realized, you know what? Anything is possible. No matter what kind of barriers you're facing, what kind of walls you're hitting, the only person who's stopping you is yourself. You have to remember that anything is possible and not to allow yourself to stop yourself. Don't go with the word can't. It doesn't matter if you're speaking English, Spanish, ASL, anything is possible. You're learning every day. And because of that, you can't stop believing in yourself.
Yeah, anything is possible. I agree with you. As a deaf person, sometimes, we're nervous to take that initiative, but once we do, we can get so much done and so much help and make so much progress. And really, it's just about getting through that first step. You're right. Anything is possible.
That's right.
I do have another question for you, Mayra. Can you tell me about, is there any difference between Latinx and Latina or Latino? How do we best use that?
Sure. The word Latinx is more of a gender neutral term.
Okay.
It's more neutral. And myself, I identify as a Latinx. I'm not American. I do say sometimes that I'm from Mexico. So I may be Mexican, but a lot of times if I say I'm Mexican, people will ask me where I'm from and I'll say Guadalajara. And sometimes I'll say DF because people from Mexico understand what that is. But here in America, typically, like if I'm filling out a form, it'll ask you race, ethnicity, and that's where I'll put down Latina. But Latino, or excuse me, Latinx is more of a gender neutral term.
Okay, let's see if I'm understanding this right. So Latinx, that's gender neutral. Latino, that's for someone who's male. And Latina, that's for someone who is female.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. You got it, Scott.
All right. See, I learned something today.
There you go.
All right. I do have something. Is there anything else you'd like our audience to know before we wrap up our time together?
I do want the audience to understand a little bit about language and being behind in language. Please, even if somebody is behind in language, don't assume that they don't know or don't understand, especially parents who are moving here to the United States. They may not know English and may just be picking it up. You don't want to think that they don't understand something or that there's something mentally wrong with them. Just be patient with them. Let them analyze what's going on. Make sure that they understand more what's going on. Make sure that if they're learning English, keep it simple for them. As far as language, there are some people who just unfortunately are late language learners, and they might be working really hard to learn the language, to understand it. It doesn't mean that we're clueless about something or that there's something mentally wrong with a person. It just means that they're learning a different language.
Hold on here. Oh, I do have another question I want to ask you. So, you know three languages: Spanish, American Sign Language, and English. It's hard to navigate. How is that?
Yes, it can be difficult. Sometimes I mix two languages together, or I might be going from one language to another. Maybe I'm going from Spanish to ASL. And you can see even here, sometimes I mix my languages, but it's because my brain is trying to figure out, how do I translate this from one language to another? How can I take it from English to ASL? Maybe I have to do some code switching when I'm in ASL and I'm signing. It's not always easy to go from one language to another. Now, if I'm signing with my sister, she's deaf as well. So we might just mix a little bit of ASL and Spanish and English together. Like I might say language this way, or I might say this, which could mean work, but it's understood and she understands it. It's our language. It's kind of like a home language. But when I'm working with somebody professionally, or if I'm working with someone, I might have to do a little code switching and make sure that everybody's understanding. So going from one language to another can be difficult. But again, once you get used to it and practice it, and you have friends who speak the language, it's much easier. Again, anything is possible. You can if you want.
Learning a language can be difficult. And when others see someone trying to communicate in another language, or they see someone who's learning another language, they may think that they're not as intelligent. And like you explained, you have to switch in your mind from one language to the other. You're code switching from Spanish to English to ASL. That's difficult.
It is. You're right, Scott. It is.
I know some people who know 3 languages and some who know just one. That doesn't mean that's a factor in any of their level of intelligence at all. There's a lot going on when you have multiple languages in your mind, how to express yourself, and you have to take some time to go back and forth.
It is. And it can be quite a challenge. And sometimes you get stuck in one language trying to think of the word in another language and you can't think of it. So, yeah, it's challenging.
That's why in personal growth, we're looking at things that can be a challenge for us that we can overcome. And so again, growing through that, working our way through those things is part of our journey.
That's right.
So we are wrapping up for today. Mayra, is there any last comments you'd like to give our audience?
Yes. I want students to remember to keep learning. Never take the word no. You never know what's going to happen in your future. It's important to learn and have an open mind. And if you don't understand something, don't be afraid to ask. Ask a teacher or ask your coworker, whoever's in the environment with you. Don't be afraid to say, I don't understand. Can you help me? It's okay to ask for help. Somebody could really explain something for you. You don't have to be embarrassed. When I was little and growing up, I learned a lot on my own, but I look back at that now and I think I should not have done that. I should have looked to other people to help me. I thought people would look at me because my skin was a different color and look down on me. But when I entered college, I learned how to ask for help. I was surrounded by people of diverse backgrounds, and I found people who look like me. And I learned to ask for help, especially when I was using English or trying to understand something from English to Spanish. I was able to ask for help, and I was always learning. So never stop learning.
Yes, exactly. It's so important to be assertive and to look for those answers, to advocate for yourself. That's self-advocacy 101 there. Doesn't matter if you're deaf, hard of hearing, or deaf blind. Even for ourselves, it's so important to reach out and to find those answers. And just like you said, Mayra, patience and that other phrase too, anything is possible.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayra, for your time today and talking with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting us know about deaf women of color. And again, if anyone would like to be involved in a workshop you're putting on, please contact me. I'll put you in touch with Mayra as well. So again, thank you again for your time. Thanks for joining us. Have a great
Thank
day,
you.
everybody.
Thank you, Scott. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye.